We are going to be doing Intro to Tables in Jupyter Notebook, which uses Python. So there are other places where you can use this code, such as Spider. However, I just like to use Jupyter Notebook because it's what I've worked in before, but it's also what I learned on. So the first thing we are going to do is import the package that we want to use. So we're going to type in import pandas as PD. So we're going to be using PD throughout our work, so it's a lot easier just to refer to it as PD instead of having to type out Panda. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And how you run it is you return, do shift return at the same time. Or what you can do is if you press the cell, you go to cell, and you can just press run cell. Either way is going to work. So another thing that you can do in Jupyter Notebook that you might not know is if you want to make a little note and not have the code actually run, what you can do is you can use the little hashtag, and I'm going to put assign data because what we're going to do next is we're going to assign some data just as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it in here just because it'd be a lot to type out, but feel free to pause the video and type it out if you would like. You just need some sort of random data if you're just trying to figure it out as an example. So you can just use whatever you want to use at the moment. So this is just the data set I created. So we have name, state, and region with some random names, some states, and where the region is located within the US. So I'm going to run that. Now what we can do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to create a data frame using the data set that we just created. So I'm going to call my data frame, just to keep it easy, I'm going to call it DF. That is going to be equal to PD. So again, we're using our pandas, which is, again, a Python library, and it's going to be used to work with data sets, so to analyze and clean data. So we're going to call on that. So we're going to type data frame. Gotta make sure we type it in, make sure we have all the capital letters correct. We're going to type in data frame, and then what are we going to give the data frame? We need some sort of data. We're going to give it our data set. We can go ahead and run that. Now there's two ways so we can print our table that we just created. You can either use print df, which is just going to print our data frame, or all you need to do is just type in df, and that'll also show our data frame, as you can see here. So now we have a nice table. We have rows, and our rows are numbered with this, or should I say numbered, or they're indexed. You can see we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have our column and their names. We have name, state, and region in the order that we gave it to. So if you already have a CS file that you want to work with, what you can do is have your data frame equal to pd.read CSV, and then all you would need to do would be to put in your file name that you have saved. And what you want to make sure is that your file is in the same Jupyter notebook folder. So you just want to make sure it's in the same folder, and then you can just call whatever CSV that you already have. And you also don't have to name it data frame. You can name it anything that you want. I just chose it for this example just because it's easy to use. So now if we want to look at the first 5 rows in our table, so if we had a lot longer table, say we had 30 rows and we just want to look at the first 5 just to kind of get a feel for the data. What we can do is do df.head, run that, and as you can see, it shows our first 5. Same thing if we want to look at the last 5 rows in our table. So we have 100 rows and we want to just see what the last 5 are. We're just curious. We can do df.tail, and that'll go ahead and give us our last 5. Now, if you want to, let's say you don't want to look at the first 5. You want to look at the first, let's say, look at the first 10 rows of our table. What you can do is do df.head, and then within the parentheses, you can put, we don't have 10, so it's going to give me an error, but you could do 10. It'll give us the first 5 because that's all we have. But you could do 10 if you had more than 10. So then if you want the column names, so again, let's say you have a larger data set, you want to know all the column names to see what kind of data that you are looking at. It'll give you the names. So we have name, state, region, which that's what we gave it, so we know that those are the columns that should return. Now, if you want to look at a specific column, so let's say we just want to look at the state. Let's get a feeling for kind of what states are in there. Okay, so we have the row, and then we have all the different states and just the states, just the column of the states. However, if we want to count the number for each region, what we're going to do is take our data frame. Now we're going to look at the column region, and then we're going to put in value counts. And what value counts does is it's going to return the counts of unique values. So as you can see, the Midwest has 3, South has 2, and the West has 1. Then if we want to so let's say we want to look at the first row, we want to just see what the data is in that row. So normally people want to do is they would want to put 1 for the first row. But with coding, it actually starts at 0. So you're going to do index at 0 in order to get it. Then next, let's say we want to make a list of just 2 columns. Say that we have a good amount of columns, and what we want to do is we want to just look at 2 of them. So what we can do with ours is, let's say we want to look at name and we want to look at region. So we create that. Now what we're going to do is create a smaller data frame. So we take our data frame that already exists and we want to make a new list out of there, meaning that we only want name and region. So we only want these columns to appear within our new smaller data frame. Then if we want to see what that looks like to make sure that we have it correct, we can do our smaller data frame, look at the head, and as you can see, now all we have is the name and the region. And then the last 2 things we're going to do is if we want to look within a column, let's say, okay, within our data frame, within the column region, we want to see which ones are equal to Midwest. So as you can see, what we get for our output is the row and whether it's true or whether it is false. So to fix this or to remedy this, so we're going to say who lives in the Midwest region. We are going to say take our data frame. Within our data frame, looking at the specific column region where it is equal to Midwest, that is what we want. That is what we want in our data frame for Midwest region. So this would be only the people that had Midwest within their thing. And to make sure we got it correct, we run it. And as you can see, the only rows that have the region Midwest are what is shown. And that is the end to our introduction to tables in Jupyter Notebook.